Have you ever heard of a trial so bizarre, so utterly macabre, that it sounds like something straight out of a horror movie? Well, buckle up, because today we're diving into one of the strangest and most haunting events in all of history, the Cadaver Synod. Imagine this. It's the year 897 in Rome. The air is thick with political tension and religious power struggles. The new pope, Stephen VI, has a score to settle with his predecessor, Pope Formosus. But there's a slight problem. Formosus has been dead and buried for about 9 months. For most people, that would be the end of the story. But not for Pope Stephen. He decides to do something unprecedented. He orders the corpse of Formosus to be dug up from its grave. Yes, you heard that right. A decaying body, exhumed from its final resting place, is about to become the defendant in a formal church trial. This isn't just some back-alley revenge. This is a public spectacle. The guards bring the ghastly corpse into the Basilica of St. John Lateran, the Grand Cathedral of Rome. They prop the lifeless body onto a throne, dress it in the magnificent papal robes it once wore in life, and the trial begins. The scene must have been grotesque. The smell, the sight. It's hard to even imagine. In this grim courtroom, Pope Stephen VI acts as the prosecutor, leveling charges against the silent, decaying figure before him. The charges? Perjury, ambition, and violating canon law by accepting the papacy while he was bishop of another city. Of course, a corpse can't speak for itself. So, a young, terrified deacon is appointed to stand beside the body and answer for the deceased pope. Imagine the fear in that deacon's heart, forced to speak for a dead man while the living pope stares him down. The trial is a complete sham. Pope Stephen rants and raves, hurling accusations at the corpse. Every question posed to Formosus is met with a chilling silence, and the poor deacon, caught in the middle, can only stammer out pre-written incriminating answers. The verdict was a foregone conclusion. Pope Formosus was found guilty, and the punishment? It was as brutal as the trial was bizarre. The corpse was stripped of its holy garments. The 3 fingers on its right hand, the very fingers used to give blessings, were hacked off. This was a symbolic act, meant to nullify every blessing, every consecration, every single act Formosus had performed as pope. His entire legacy was being erased before the eyes of the horrified Roman clergy. But the desecration didn't end there. After being mutilated, the body of the once revered pope was dragged through the streets of Rome. A mob, likely whipped into a frenzy by the political climate, tied weights to the corpse and hurled it into the Tiber River. The message was clear. This man was not just guilty, he was unworthy of even a Christian burial. He was to be erased from history itself. Now you might be wondering, why would anyone go to such extreme lengths? What could possibly motivate a pope to put a dead man on trial? To understand the Cadaver Synod, we have to understand the chaotic political landscape of 9th century Italy. The papacy wasn't just a spiritual role. It was a position of immense political power. Different noble factions in Rome and powerful foreign rulers, like the Holy Roman Emperors, were constantly vying for control of the papal throne. A friendly pope meant land, titles, and influence. Pope Formosus had been caught in the middle of these power struggles. He had crowned a certain Holy Roman Emperor, which angered a rival Italian faction, the Spoletans. When the Spoletans eventually gained the upper hand in Rome, they installed their own man as pope, Stephen VI. So the Cadaver Synod wasn't really about canon law or perjury. It was a brutal act of political revenge. By declaring all of Formosus's acts null and void, Stephen VI was also invalidating the crowning of Formosus's chosen emperor, thereby strengthening his own faction's political standing. It was a power play of the most gruesome kind. The story, however, doesn't end with Formosus's body sinking to the bottom of the Tiber. In a twist that feels almost miraculous, some fishermen reportedly found the corpse washed up on the riverbank. Legends began to swirl that the body was performing miracles. The public, who had been shocked and disgusted by the Cadaver Synod, started seeing Formosus as a martyr. The tide of public opinion turned swiftly against Pope Stephen VI. The backlash was severe. The people of Rome were outraged by the sacrilege. An earthquake hit the basilica not long after, which many interpreted as a sign of God's displeasure. The political winds shifted once again. Within a few months of the trial, Pope Stephen VI was overthrown, imprisoned, and later strangled to death in his cell. The ultimate irony: the man who desecrated a corpse to secure his power was himself violently dispatched. His successor, Pope Theodore II, officially annulled the Cadaver Synod. He had the body of Formosus recovered, dressed once more in papal robes, and given a proper, honorable reburial at St. Peter's Basilica. Future popes would continue to condemn the trial, with one even ordering that all records of it be burned, though thankfully for history some survived. The Church even passed a law forbidding any future trials of the dead. It seems they learned their lesson. Maybe don't put corpses on trial. The Cadaver Synod remains one of history's most vivid examples of how power can corrupt, and how political ambition can lead to acts of unimaginable cruelty and absurdity. It's a chilling reminder that the past is filled with events far stranger than any fiction. A dead pope dressed in robes sitting on a throne in a courtroom. It's a story that, once you hear it, you'll never forget. What do you think is the most bizarre part of this story? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey into the darker corners of history. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the weird and wonderful past. See you next time.